Now, let me tell you a little bit about him. Roger blends behavioral science, human-centered design, engineering, and agentic AI to drive impactful business outcome-driven innovations. At Chai, he sets the vision for AI initiatives, integrating experience design into AI and advancing agentic AI workflows and multi-agent systems to amplify human potential through human-centered AI. Now, if what I've said to you makes absolutely no sense, I guarantee you it will by the end of this webinar. Roger's led transformative initiatives and creative teams for top brands and agencies, including Verizon, X, Hyundai, Motorola, BP, and major networks such as MTV, ESPN, Nickelodeon, Fox, NBC, CBS, ABC, and more. He's also a really sought-after keynote speaker, and he's shared his insights on technology, AI, and design at Harvard, MIT, Cannes, The Economist, Reuters, and now at our Aquent DigiTalks. So as you can see, there is no one more qualified to talk to us today about agentic AI and how it'll transform the future of work. So over to you, Roger.
Wow, thank you so much, Carolyn. That was really nice of you. And so I'm so happy to be here, excited to be with all of you. And thank you for having me. And good day. I am very excited about today. I'm going to share my screen and share a presentation. And I want to just thank Carolyn and the team and Aquent Australia and Aquent for having me in general, as well as excited about even their salary report that's coming out or came out. So take a look at that as well. So I'm going to let's see, share my screen, and hopefully everybody can see that. Today we're going to talk about agentic AI transforming the future of work with AI agents. Again, my name is Roger Rohatgi, the Chief AI Officer at Chai and the former Chief Design Officer at BP. And why that is somewhat relevant is the fact that I truly believe that there is a world of being able to combine the human-centered design principles that many of you know in the world, coupled with this new technology that's seemingly everywhere these days, AI, right? And so we call that at Chai human-centered AI. And I remember several years ago, I was thinking about what's the future of UX and where are things headed, and what is the evolution of that? And one of the things I began to stumble upon was a concept that I was researching called, and I called it the rise of AX instead of UX, where you see today, now we're going from what I believe artificial experience all the way to agentic experience. And so traditionally, the way I had described AX is that humans have been designing for humans based upon what humans think humans need or want. And now it seems that AI will be designing for humans based on what AI thinks humans need or want. So what does that mean? And where do we go with all that? Well, first you have to look at the past. And this year is the 70-year anniversary of the coining of the term artificial intelligence by John McCarthy at Dartmouth College. And since that pivotal moment, AI has evolved dramatically. 1955 was an incredible year. Not only was it the coining of artificial intelligence, but it was also the beginning of UX in many ways with Henry Dreif's book on how to design for people. And both of them at the same time. 1955 had so many inventions and discoveries, and you can check that out in some of the writings that I have. But it's a fascinating year to see that where we've evolved for the last 70 years. And so now we're at the era of agentic AI. And so what does that mean, right? What is agentic AI? So agentic AI refers to artificial intelligence systems designed to act autonomously, proactively, and intelligently toward achieving specific goals. These systems demonstrate initiative, awareness of context, and the ability to make decisions. They're goal-oriented, adaptive, interactive, and self-improving. And this concept of agentic AI is made possible by what we call AI agents. And those are individual entities that perceive their environment. They reason through options and act upon it to fulfill their objectives. So you can think of them as like digital coworkers or collaborators, capable of handling multiple tasks, coordinating with other agents, or even assisting humans directly. Some examples are, a personal assistant that schedules your meetings, or a customer service agent handling conversations and multiple things all at once, and a marketing agent perhaps that creates and posts content. And some of this you'll see as we go along. So with all of that, the big question is, what is the difference between this new world of agentic AI and what everybody's been already talking about with generative AI? Many of you already know this, but just as a recap, generative AI on the left, when you think about the purpose that it has, it creates content. It responds to prompts autonomously, or it has its own autonomy, but at the same time, you have to prompt it. It generates text, images, video, and even code, and more. And it has basic API access and basic integration access. But when you look at agentic AI takes action and makes decisions. It acts independently with goals. It's unscripted, and it just follows what it thinks is best. And it plans, it executes, and it adapts, it learns. And there's deep system integration all over all the access that you can get through APIs and other tools as well. And that future is now, and it's happening in a way that is quite rapid. And when I started thinking about what this means for work and what this means for us, I go back to a couple years ago when I had a partnership with MIT, and we began to explore what that looks like. And what I was excited about was the fact that what we were exploring back then is taking shape even now, like in a way that we almost didn't even imagine. And so Sam Altman said it pretty well. He said, we believe that in 2025, we may see the first AI agents join the workforce and materially change the output of companies. And at MIT, we began to dive in and look at what does this look like? What is the relationship between these AI agents and humans in the workplace? What is that gonna be like when we're all working together in some way? And what's the dynamics? What are the things that we need? What are the things that it needs or they need? And what does that mean for society in general, but also for the output of what we do in the workplace? And I started thinking through that, and one of the things that I proposed there at MIT was a place that we could start. And that was starting with the human. And so if you were to think about traditional work, you have a human represented by an H working with another human, and you are going to have H, right? Human working with human, and so forth. But what's happening now, and like Sam Altman had kind of said and predicted in some ways, there is a shift where we're adding in the agent. And so we're going from H to A, right? Human, agent, right? And that dynamic is an interesting shift, because right now we know that agent is going to assist and do a myriad of things for us. Some companies are already trying to put them in place, and we're building them, but there are companies that still haven't figured out the use cases or where they want to go with it yet, but they know it's coming, and they know they need it. So if you go from here, the next step that is coming in the next maybe year or so could be HA, right? So, this is the true interaction with human and agent. So it could be that every human is working with an agent specifically, and they have their own as a coworker or as a secondary worker with them to augment themselves. Or it could be that's how the flow of a workflow is. But then this is where it goes after that. H. So what does that mean? And how do we, get prepared for a world like that? Because what this means is that agents will be doing a lot of the tasks and humans will be governing those tasks, making the decisions, approving the outcome or the quality or the output or whatever it might be. Now, there may be agents that also self-manage and govern other agents, and that's definitely something that we're looking at as well. But ultimately, humans will lead these teams of agents, and that future, well, some people might say, but I think that there's some exciting possibilities that are on the horizon. And one of those began back in 2023 when I was partnering with Harvard on and a group called Fantasy on how we can move beyond just creating digital twins of some of the assets that we had in the company to beginning to create digital twins of our customers. And we trained them on all sorts of customer data and 100 different human traits that we gave them. And we began to interact with them and go deeper in research. And there was a wide range of issues and interesting feedback that they gave us when we interacted with them. And we called them synthetic humans. And these synthetic humans had really blown our minds with all the different ways that they would think, but also we would benchmark it with humans so that we could calibrate and see where there were similarities. And the interesting thing was that, when we were, and I'm going to, kind of just give this as a generic story, not specific facts, but let's say we were, working with them and we were asking them all sorts of different questions about the future and about what we would do if we were to build smart cities or the future of smart cities. And the synthetic human ideation came back and said, well, first you have to think about that, when you look at smart cities and you look at the current cities that we have, it's very difficult to turn current cities into smart cities. And so you have to, go through all the regulations and all the, the infrastructure that's legacy infrastructure in a city to be able to pull this off. But if you were to build a brand new city that's smart, you wouldn't have to worry about all that. But then the question came, how do we get humans to that smart city? And so when we asked one of the humans, Lena, synthetic humans, Lena, she said, well, when there's several things that you have to consider when moving people to a whole new city, especially a smart city. And it's not just about the human and the people and their homes and their animals and their pets. All that needs to move, of course, but it's the ecosystem and environment around them. They have places of worship and school and education and community. They have convenience and where they go and shop and what they do and so forth. And they have a myriad of connections and networks of people and family members and so forth. So you can't just move the person and their belongings and their pets to a new city. You have to move their entire ecosystem. So when we heard that, it was fascinating because there was this artificial empathy that she had. When we asked the human the same question, they said, well, yeah, just move them. There was no empathy. It was just move them. Everybody needs to move. So it was amazing to see what could be done. And this was just the beginning of exploring this, and we documented that, and these became the first documented use or case of synthetic humans that we know of by Harvard in the world. And one of the things I want to show you now is that next step in that evolution, where what if we were to go beyond just creating digital twins of customers and we had a digital twin of ourselves, and what would that actually feel like or be like? And so I'm going to show you a video here. And it's going to be of me and well, you'll see.
Hi there. Did you know I speak many other languages? Por ejemplo, este soy yo hablando español. これは私が日本語で話しているところです。Je peux aussi parler français. Incroyable, n'est-ce pas?
So that video was a video of myself, but what I wanted to illustrate was the concept that I call multi-potentiality. And that video was a digital twin of me that spoke in multiple languages that I don't speak fluently, but it spoke for me and moved quite naturally, just like I would. And even sounded just like I would as well, or close to it. And so this concept of multi-potentiality, not just speaking multiple languages, but a multi-potentialite is someone with many interests and creative pursuits. And that term's been coined already, but the way I've expanded it is that it really connotates people having multiple needs, wants, skills and goals, gifts and talent and abilities. And yet we're often limited by time. And so when we have those skills and we have those gifts, we have those talents, one of the ways to be able to expand that is to multiply ourselves. And so this digital omnipresence begins to happen where there will be a rise of people, perhaps, having multiple avatars or digital personas showing up in many places, capable of performing different tasks with different learned behaviors or interests. There could be a version of me coming on a Zoom call, and another version giving a message and speaking, one translating, another version running a side hustle, taking care of my finances or my personal life, researching a project for me, and all these different ones are even working for me in ways that I maybe didn't even realize I needed, and also organizing maybe my work and even helping me at my job. And so those AI agents that are digital twins of me will power the furthering of interactions through this future of this autonomous workforce that's going to be around us, and we'll have that for ourselves. And so when I started thinking about that, and I started thinking about it in the context of work, and with all those different versions that we may have or will have, then when I looked at how companies would hire, companies won't just be hiring you for you or me for me, but they'll be hiring us for all the versions of us, right? All the versions of you that come along with you. And that multi-potentiality is what's going to be perhaps quite valuable in the future. But how does that translate to companies and brands? Because brands are going to then have to cater to this multiplicity of needs and wants. For instance, in the real world, I might like Coca-Cola, but in the digital world, maybe one of my digital twins likes Pepsi, or for a digital drink. And so there's this separation or multiplication of my needs and how I need to now be targeted by brands and marketed to as well. And so that really advances forward a concept that I've been thinking about called multimorphic marketing. And multimorphism is the presence of multiple forms simultaneously. And ultimately, this digital multiplicity is going to cause these brands to have to think and not just think about the needs and the different needs of the human themselves, but all the needs of their digital twins, and cater to those in different ways. And so customers may have a myriad of these digital needs and wants, but the data will need to account for this and create a more complete view of customers and all their various forms. And so it's not enough anymore just to know or to think we know what the human wants or needs. We have to be thinking about what all these extensions of them want and need as well, because they might be also making decisions, or at least presenting the decision to a human for them to act on. And so AI is going to be able to do this, and it's going to be able to continue to learn these behaviors and anticipate the next spawn of needs and wants, and it might even spawn an agent to interact with your agent or your digital twin as well, to be able to get that ad across, or that offering across, or even that item sold, or what have you. And so when I think about the future of marketing, I look at what some of the trends are right now. And one of the latest trends is what is called vibe marketing. And vibe marketing is very similar to vibe coding, if you've heard that, where vibe marketing is tapping into AI tools to generate and personalize and launch brand content based on emotional tone and cultural moments, automating engagement across channels. And very similar to vibe coding, where software engineers are using code tools to be able to generate code and build things very fast and rapidly using AI, and ultimately AI agents to do this. And the way I kind of see this is it's truly an evolution of where we're headed. And so what you have on the right is an ad there with a salsa that my father and I make here and sell here in the United States in different stores, and it's called Picante. And this hot sauce is great on all sorts of kind of foods, breakfast tacos, which is tortillas with eggs and cheese in them, and all sorts of kind of interesting things that people use it for. And so it has a lot of flavor and a lot of I guess love into the jar. And so I wanted to be able to connotate that feeling of love, that feeling of youth, and that feeling of the flavor. And so I put that into a tool and I typed in my prompt, and this is what it generated as an ad, completely made for me. And so within just moments and seconds. And then I'm going to show you a video of something else. I want to show you of somebody talking about our company.
I am so tired of salsas that are full of preservatives and artificial flavors. I just want to enjoy salsa without all the extra junk.
I totally get that. You should try Picante salsa. It is made with all natural ingredients, and get this, it is gluten-free and fat-free. Really?
So what I wanted to do is just show you a snippet of that, because what you're seeing there within literally 20 seconds, I put in my URL into a tool of my website. I didn't give it any description. I didn't give it any prompt. I just gave it my website. And within 20 seconds, it spit out almost 20 videos like this of what I call artificial influencers that are talking about my brand. They learned it from my website, and they're talking about it better than I would be talking about it, endorsing it without me even having to tell them what to say. Now, there's an ethical side to this of do you actually use this or not, but I wanted to just show you and demonstrate how quickly, just within seconds, literally seconds, it can look at my website and then spit out videos with all sorts kind of people in different ages and diversity and backgrounds and styles and even languages on my product. And it's wild to see how this can happen. And so when you get in the groove of creating these, it becomes deeper into this vibe marketing. And so this evolution will give these artificial influencers to a place where I think they'll fully get to, where they're combining agentic and generative together into something I call agentive personas with real world clout, right? So what that means is they'll be able to generate this content, create more content, but also then post themselves and talk on their own autonomously, and then build a following and really influence, right? They'll engage fans, they'll influence trends, they'll host live Q&As, and maybe in augmented reality, and even write their own scripts and responses, which is kind of the evolution of that. So where does this go? And how does this really affect the traditional way that we do some of the things that we do in marketing and design and product? So when you look at some of these things holistically, at the end of the day, there's a larger view of the way the customer has to interact with our brand. And that customer journey is something that we have done so many different attempts at trying to map and trying to understand and trying to craft and curate, and also make sure that the customer follows that journey as well. And so there's a tool called They Do, and I just wanted to share it with you. I thought it was cool, and it allows you to act on all your customer knowledge and seamlessly reveal customer insights and business opportunities hiding in all your customer journeys at scale. And it can do this by building out the journey and then looking for insights and a myriad of things. So imagine a world where now you're using AI to not just analyze your customer journeys, but building out new ones, and then having agents begin to then interact and fix the areas where customers are falling off or not engaging or having a struggle or where there's actually the most traffic and so forth, and they can actually enhance it. And so this leads me to this future of what could be called agentic marketing. And in traditional marketing, there are 7 pillars, and now with agentic marketing, it expands to 8 in the way I've been looking at it. And when you think about on the left, the elements of traditional marketing, there's audience understanding and value proposition and so forth. But audience understanding quickly translates to real-time AI-driven behavioral sensing and psychographic modeling. Value proposition transforms into adaptive messaging shaped by continuous feedback loops. Positioning and brand translates and transforms into living, responsive brand identities shaped by marketing signals. Channel strategy transforms to AI-orchestrated omni-channel experiences. Content and creative is co-created now with AI, evolving with context, emotion, and timing. Engagement and experience is now becoming agent-led interactions that feel personal, predictive, and participatory. Measurement and optimization, which is super important, is now going to be autonomous learning systems that self-correct and scale with insights. And lastly, being able to have your brand become an intelligence presence, and that's active, self-aware, and building trust everywhere it goes on its own, is that evolution and the future. And so tools that enable agentic marketing are a dime a dozen, it seems like. So many are popping up these days, but one of them is called Make.com. There are many like this, but Make can automate everything from email campaigns and social media postings and ad campaigns, streamline marketing development by automating content creation and analyzing customer feedback and so forth, right? And conducting market research and copy. And so in this scenario on the right, this agent has set to go out, scrape the information from the web that it needs to, put it into a Google Sheet, then it brings that Google Sheet to Perplexity. Perplexity then writes new copy and creates new or generates new, ads or information or whatever messages that need to go out, and then it gets disseminated out through all these different social channels on a continual basis, autonomously and automatically. And that automation is something that's going to be just normal for our workflows, not just for marketing, but many parts of the way that we function as a society and as the companies that we have or are part of. And so this extends beyond just marketing into AI, now product and design tools, where these tools can streamline product development by automating the product requirement documentation creation, analyzing customer feedback, optimizing A/B testing, conducting the market research as well, and even going forward with that copy. And so you see, I've put there's some tools here that I grabbed from someone who had these out there, but so many are cropping up as well. But there's some for product design and customer support and building prototypes and market research and so forth. And so one of those, I want to show you what it looks like to actually build a prototype that combines design, code, and product together in one tool. And some of you, probably many of you, have already seen this tool, but for those of you that haven't, I wanted to share it with you. So I'm going to jump out of presentation mode, and we're going to jump over here live to this. And this tool is called Lovable. And normally, if I had the ability to, I would have asked, hey, somebody send me what their favorite app is or what they want to build, and any app idea they have. And I would put it in here and show you what happens. But instead, I created a pre-prompt of a web app where Aussies are able to nominate and celebrate everyday heroes in their community with stories, photos, and a live map to vote, share, and spread good vibes across Australia. And so here's what happens when that takes off and you just put that prompt in. It begins to analyze and work through a myriad of reasoning factors, and it starts to come back and it says, look, I love this idea for highlighting everyday Australian heroes. Let's create a vibrant community and so forth. Now it's off to the races, and now it's actually going to code in real time. And so we're going to let that bake, and we're going to come back in just a minute and see what it actually builds. And so I'm just going to jump back to our presentation and jump down to more about AI agents in action. And so some of the ones that we have been seeing and the ones that we have been able to start building and have are able to transform operational workflows, enhance decision-making, and unlock new levels of business quality. And so 3 categories, the 3 areas where we see a lot of talk or demand and use cases are coming in one, vision agents that uses advanced computer vision to accurately count items, detect anomalies, and does real-time inventory restocking. Voice agents, which are conversational AI with natural speech that can handle calls smoothly with smart scheduling and negotiation. And answers agents, which delivers instant context-aware answers from company data with, and of course it's secure with role-based access. And so these are 3 of the most common ones that we have seen. And I'll actually show you a voice agent. Now, I have a longer version of this, or full version of this demo, but and you can see that online. Claudia is going to put a link in the chat for us if you want to see that later. But I'll show you just a snippet, a 90-second version of that, and so you can see what this voice agent can do. Hi, I'm Roger from Chai. I'm excited to introduce you to one of our newest agents.
I'd like to schedule a visit from a technician to take a closer look at your equipment. Just a heads up, your equipment is out of warranty, so there's a $100 fee for the visit. Is that okay with you?
Actually, it seems a little high. Is there anything you can do?
I understand. How about I offer you a 10% discount, bringing it down to $90? Does that work for you?
Actually, can you do 20%?
Let me talk to my supervisor and see if I can get you a discount. Please hold.
Okay, so he's put me on hold, and I'm going to be the manager as well, and he's calling me here, so I'm going to flip over. Hello?
Hey, this is Jorge. I have a customer on the line waiting for a discount. He needs to schedule an appointment, but he wants to know if we can offer him the 20% discount. Can you authorize that?
Did you already tell the customer that we could offer him 10%?
Yeah, I already offered him a 10% discount, but he's asking for a bigger discount. Can we go up to 20%?
Sure, yes.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Okay, now I'm swapped back. Hello?
Hey, I'm back. Good news. I got the approval for a 20% discount, so it'll be $80. When would you like to schedule the technician visit?
Oh, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. Go to heychai.ai to find out more. So what you saw there was an agent that was incredibly natural in its speech, but also was able to not only tell me that I was out of warranty, but offer me a discount and then negotiate that discount for me and then put me on hold and actually get a better price or discount for me with a manager, called a human manager, and then came back and helped me get that better price and then proceeded to schedule the in-home visit, all where it seemed like I was talking to a real human. So that was an example of voice. When just to show you a visual representation of the vision agents that I'm talking about is on the left. There's tons of cardboard boxes here that come back in trays for different companies that need these, and there's no way to really count them. So AI can do that. In the middle, AI can do inventory management, where it has identified all the empty slots on a shelf. And it can then not just tell me that it is empty, but then it can restock and reorder, and also tell me where the best placement is for items, highest traffic, and why and when people are picking up an item and then putting it back. Maybe not the why, but maybe it just tells me when and what. And then on the right, anomaly detection is another use case where anything that has damage or anything that's out of sorts, it can see. And basically anything you can see, it can see. Anything it can see, it can reason on. Anything it can reason on, it can act on. And so it can detect damage or use drone footage to do predictive maintenance, and then it can take action on top of that. And then one of the things that is happening with the agentic world is the proliferation of the simultaneous multi-potentiality of even the way that we leverage apps. And so there's a new tool that you've probably seen called Manus. And it's designed to autonomously interact with apps and websites to complete tasks on behalf of the user. So I'm going to show you a video. And this video is of them simultaneously, the agent is simultaneously handling multiple apps at the same time. So they are, or this agent is, tweeting or posting. It is, purchasing, perhaps booking something, doing research, commenting on social media, all at the same time, all at once. And so this everywhere, everything, all at once is all wrapped up into this moment right here, right now. And so really quickly, I want to check and see how our Lovable prototype came out. And here's what it came up with. So it came up with an app on its own, and it's called Aussie Hero Vibes, celebrating everyday Australians making an extraordinary difference in the communities. And so it has featured heroes. It has a way to nominate a hero, and it can do a myriad of things. And all these things are interactive and already ready almost to go. And it's coded and thinking of things that I didn't even think of myself. Things here in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and on, right? And so even in Perth. So I thought that was pretty cool what it did right there while we were chatting here on this presentation. So now I'm going to jump back and jump to how then do we figure out the ways to get these AI agents onto our team and into our workflow. And so these AI agents really should complement your team's strengths. And so there's some best practices for integration. First of all, we need to start, and you need to start small and scale gradually, because there's a lot of this that needs to be tested and tried, obviously, but not everybody's going to be on board with it right away. And so you begin with 1 or 2 AI agents in specific areas before expanding and really looking for that use case. Number 2 is to ensure cross-team collaboration. These AI agents should work alongside a marketing, sales, and customer service teams, right? So they should augment and they should be integrated, and they should continue to elevate what all of those people do. The third is to be able to train AI with high quality data. So AI effectiveness depends on really the quality of data it learns from. And number 4, we need to be able to monitor and optimize continuously. So AI models should be refined based on real-time feedback and performance metrics. And then lastly, we need to be able to create a human AI feedback loop where employees are the ones that should oversee and guide AI agents to improve results, pull the plug if needed, restart if needed, or continue to refine them as well. And so, first of all, when we're thinking about these agents, a lot of times people ask, well, where can they bring the most value, and how do we really start and move forward with this? And one of the most important things is to think about this as starting with the human. It really comes down to understanding what your teams or your company's pain points are, and what are the opportunities for not just, maybe automation, but also for a massive shift in what could be done. And so starting with the human and using human-centered design principles is key. And those that know human-centered design principles, those that have been thinking and doing design thinking and even practicing UX or leveraging design thinking or design principles and human-centered design, if they lead product teams or lead companies or marketing teams or customer experience teams, are the ones that really we need to rely on now more than ever, because they are the ones that know best what humans are going to need from AI. And so the common use cases for, let's just say, marketing teams are being able to automate customer interactions with chatbots and virtual assistants, enhancing personalization with dynamic content and AI-driven segmentation, optimizing campaign performance, like I showed earlier with A/B testing and ad spend allocation, predicting customer behavior, churn prediction, and sentiment analysis, and generating content, which with AI copywriting along with creative automation. And so the AI agent roles beyond marketing are customer service, right? AI chatbots and voice agents like you saw, sales and lead generation, AI-driven outreach, and logistics and supply chain, predictive analytics and automation, and so many more. We're talking to companies around what they are trying to do in healthcare and how to help patients and doctors. We're talking to organizations that are in the field, and even tech support on calls, to a myriad of other areas where sometimes it's not common for someone to think that AI can help there, but AI can. But remember, the key is to start with human-centered AI. And so one of the things that I really believe strongly is that the UX of today is needed for the AI of tomorrow. And so those UX practitioners, those researchers, those product people that are focused on making sure that they put the human first in everything they do, and all of you that are doing that, those very things that you're already doing, you need to keep doing, because it is the key to be able to go beyond just what we're doing today and take us into the future with AI and all these AI agents, so that these AI agents become part of the work that we do, but not in a way that allows us to stop leading the work to come. And so with that, I want to just thank you for the time and allowing me to share all this with you. I look forward to your questions here in a moment. And at the end of the day, the most important thing that we are thinking about in our company is to leverage all of this human-centered AI to do something very, very important, which is to amplify human potential. And so if you want to find out more, feel free to go to heychai.ai, or you can use the QR code and connect with me on LinkedIn. Love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts, and also how you're thinking about leveraging AI agents and some of the use cases that you have. And if you need help, happy to jump in with you on that as well, for you or your company, and the future of what AI agents look like in your workflow as well. With that, thank you very, very much, and I will pause there and ask Carolyn to come back and see if we can jump into some questions, and I'll stop sharing now.
Okay, I'm back. Officially mind blown, like everyone else on this webinar. That loved the demos. Thank you so much. We are going to go to Q&A now. If you have questions, please put them in the panel. We may not have time to address all of them. We'll do our best. Just before we go to that, a quick reminder, we are recording this webinar. We will send you a copy. And please hang on at the end when the webinar ends, just for like a 2-minute survey. Tell us what you thought. Give us some ideas for some new Digitalks webinars in the future as well. So let's have a look at the Q&A panel. There is a lot of questions. Okay, let's get started. Right, from Kirill. We have a question. How should one validate that the agents don't invent customer insights based on the derived knowledge? Yeah, so no, it's a great question. Thank you. And so there, I think there's a part of me that wants to say there are some guardrails that we can put in place, and we can begin to, protect ourselves from moments when they do, or to stop them from doing that. But there's another part to say that at some point, from what I'm seeing is, especially, these agents, especially some of the ones that we're working with now, they're not scripted, and so they're goal oriented. So they're going to sometimes create their own next step or their own solution to solve a particular problem, and ultimately they're going to perhaps interact in a way that is going to be different or unexpected than what we actually expected them to do. And so there are certain things that we can put in place. One of those that we are working on now is where we have agents that have a job, and they are handling a myriad of tasks, but we have another agent that its job isn't to do those tasks. Its job is to make sure that those agents do their job.
And so that agent is managing those agents. So if those agents go off the rails and they, have these anomalies or whatever, this agent will correct it or see it or take action in a different way. So there's several things that can happen in the future, but I hope we have continue to have control over it.
Okay, next question from Cara. Cara has said, this is a great presentation, Roger, thanks. Have trialed the use of digital twins for customer personalization and seen great results. How would you scale synthetic humans to replicate the motivation and behaviors of an entire customer base? What ethics would you see are involved?
Yeah, so I think the scaling is interesting because it really does come down to the data and what it can be capable of. The possibilities of where it goes on its own means it will replicate the inputs that it has. So when you create the synthetic human, the difference of the ones that we created at Harvard versus the ones that we may have today, just a few short couple years here now, is that these agents aren't just prompted and interacting and being researched with. They now can take action and think autonomously and do a myriad of tasks on their own. And so that is a different subset of where you want it to go for scaling, right? So that wouldn't be if you're using them for research, that wouldn't be something you would do for scale. But if you're going to use them for research, then the amount of data that you have that you can feed it to understand the motivations and behaviors of how humans interact is obviously what it's going to follow and learn from. Over time, it's going to begin to make its own, own decisions and opinions, though, and that's where the ethics come in. So there's a deep part of this, and everything that I said today that has an ethical side to this, of what it looks like. There's an inevitability that this is going to happen anyway, and then there's a side of this where we may have a chance now to be able to build all the right elements into them and put the right inputs in, so that so it doesn't use the data in the wrong way.
Okay, and question from Sam: with artificial influences, will this impact customers' trust and affect the reputation of brand? I think everyone on this call is wondering that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's one of those things where I haven't even put that video of the artificial influencer up on our Salsa page because, I'm not sure how I feel about that and how I feel about people thinking that, I've put something artificial up there. But the reason why I wanted to show it to you is that there's two sides to this. There's a side where if humans don't know and they see it and it ends up being artificial when they believed it wasn't, ultimately, yes, they will lose trust. But at the very beginning of the presentation, with what I was talking about AX, where today you have humans designing for humans based upon what humans think humans need or want. And now you have AI designing for humans on what AI thinks humans need or want. You'll have not just artificial influencers, but experiences that AI is going to create that you won't know if it was created by AI. You won't know that this is an artificial influencer in time. This is just something, this was a tool, that was a free test I did, actually, what I showed you in 20 seconds. So imagine where it's about to go with even paid versions of this and the depth. I believe there should be, a transparency statement or a transparency watermark or something for us to be able to know what is AI and what's not AI, what is human. And that what is human test, or that instead of today we have are you human? It's kind of the same thing. We're going to have to, are you AI, right? It's a reverse test. And it's going to be quite interesting. But that the agent that I demonstrated to you that I called, one of our voice agents, Jorge, he's so seamless. Sometimes you feel like you're talking to a human, but But I've at moments said, hey, are you AI? And he'll say, yes, I am, but I'm here to help you. And he'll go on with that. And so some companies will choose to tell their customers up front, and there are some that won't. And then in the future, you may not even know. And it will be so common for the next generations that it won't matter. I think that's where the inevitability will come.
Okay, we've got a question from Sarah. What's the difference between AI agents and existing chatbots? Is it just the size and complexity of the models, or is there no longer a need to configure for specific businesses or roles?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on how they were built, right? So the chatbots of today have a database where when you ask it a question, it's going out, getting that information, coming back, and so forth, right? And so it's kind of just a very simple back and forth, interaction. It's very static. It has its set of things that it goes and gets and comes back. And the difference between that and an AI agent is the agent can be completely adaptive and autonomous. So it doesn't need to know where that data is. It doesn't need, it can go find it, right? It doesn't have to be set at that parameter. Like if a customer asks this, then answer with this. The agent doesn't have to operate like that. If the question, the way the agent operates is if the customer asks any question, answer to the best of your ability in the knowledge you have. And so now it is more human-like, where it begins to make a decision whether they should tell you that piece of information or not, or offer you a solution or a documentation or whatever. And so it also goes beyond your traditional chatbot, as you saw there, where not only can it handle that conversation and give you the answers and things, but it also can hold you and do multiple tasks. So it held me on hold while it then called another human to get approval, talk to the human, negotiate with the human based upon when the human pushed back and said, hey, hold on, did you already give the 10% discount? And he's like, yeah, I did, but can you still do it? And then come back, right? So a chatbot's not going to be able to interact in such a way that is all happening simultaneously, and then have the next part, which is full memory, to remember the customer when they come back. And that's going to be that next wave of the future.
Yeah, that kind of blew me away when I saw you post that on LinkedIn, and I was watching it. I was like, I just can't believe this. Everyone, you should definitely be following Roger on LinkedIn, because he demos lots of amazing AI agents and initiatives. All right, we have a question from Nicholas. Could advancements in agentic AI give small businesses a competitive advantage over large corporations? And if so, in what areas might small businesses outperform bigger players, and what challenge could they still face?
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, I think you're going to start seeing the rise of the one-person company, or the 100 AI agent companies that will be able to accomplish a lot more with very low overhead. So the small business stays small, but still has a great amount of reach and ability, because things are multiplied. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, right? So we're talking to a company where they have 5 people that do very specific case review for private equity firms. And so they have 10 cases that they review every single 3 weeks. Every case is 1,000 documents. So 5 people, 1,000 documents for every 10 case. That's 10,000 documents through the course of the year. That ultimately is 173,000 to 200,000 documents per year. And there's a cost to that and so forth. And so AI can help with that document review and bring that down to 8 hours or whatever. And so those same 5 people can do 1.2 million more reviews of documents, or documents reviewed, than they could with what they have there. And they get paid, this particular company gets paid on how many cases and documents they review. So the more they do, the more they'll make, right? So yes, it's going to revolutionize the small business for sure. the pitfalls and downsides, will small businesses have access right away to the AI agents? Do they have the right infrastructure? Do they have there's a cost associated with every interaction, every query, every minutes for calls, and there's the hosting of whether it's on Azure or Google Cloud or in Amazon AWS environment. So there's so many different parameters and stuff. So will small businesses be able to afford it? Will they be able to have access to it? Do they even know that they need it? Are they able to find a use case for it? Even the biggest companies right now are having struggle with that. So I think it'll become more and more common to a point where, yes, that will, I guess become, like a hyperdrive, where things will move very quickly in the future. But I think for now, some of the hurdles are how high the bar is to be able to get into the AI agents that may make a difference. However, there are tools like Make.com and others that are coming out now that can make it much faster.
Right. We've got time for one more question. So this is from Sunny. Do you see a bell curve future for AI, that after AI has manufactured most of the experiences, people will crave real experience with real agents, real influencers, etc.? A good question to finish on.
That's great, Sunny. Yeah, thank you. I truly do believe we're gonna thirst and long for what makes us human. There's 4 things that I in my research have found that we'll continue to have, and our ability to be in human, and what we'll continue to crave. 1, our culture and our cultural connections through all the experiences we have. Number 2 is our creativity. Number 3 is our curiosity. And number 4 is our compassion. Those 4 C's are essential to what we're going to want to crave and still have that's human, but we're also going to be able to separate ourselves from machines and so forth. However, there's a thought where I know I see a lot of emojis coming up, but one thing I want to leave you with is that if you read the book Genesis that Henry Kissinger released posthumously, he talks about a world where humans will go from we're going to go from Homo sapiens to Homo technicus, where you might see a world where it's not that humans are and agents are so polarized, but there will be a merging of human and machine in the future together, where it will be all one in what I call symbiotic intelligence, and that will change the way that we all interact, because there will be a connective mind, if you will, hive mind that will begin to proliferate, I think, humanity. So I think there's a future here where it may not be so diametrically opposed, but for now, I think there are some very important things that make us human, and that is what has led me to even try to build human-centered AI.
All right, perfect note to end on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Roger, for your generosity, sharing all your knowledge. Really appreciate it. We'll be sending the recording to everybody. Look forward to your feedback, and see you later.